are diving in today in the first of our Zodiacal series, working with the energy of the astrological sign of Aries.
Amazing archetype. Yes, Aries.
So throughout the series of this podcast, we're going to be touching upon the entire wheel of the zodiac. So you can see it here. Woo, there it is behind me. And each one of these astrological signs is a whole set of amazing archetypal energies. And so throughout this Cosmic Conduit podcast series, Vanessa and I are going to be teasing out what that means, why archetypes are helpful for us, how we can use them in our daily lives, and then specifically looking at the energy of each one of them individually, strengths, challenge points for each one, and then big feature here, big feature, Vanessa.
We are going to be talking about and working with a new part of the archetype. And really we're looking at what is necessary for us to move forward into the new paradigm.
Yeah.
Because these archetypes are ancient and we've been working with them for thousands of years, whether we're into astrology or not. They're very established archetypes in the nature of our consciousness. So an archetype is something that is a blueprint or a template of a way of being. And so with these archetypes, we really need to look at what is the higher octave, what is the higher expression of these archetypes, so that we can start showing up and anchoring these archetypes in new ways that will support us in the new paradigm.
Absolutely. So it's sort of like you may be familiar with the principle of like a light expression of the archetype. So where it's a positive force in our lives, whereas the shadow aspect of the archetype in our lives. And then what we're introducing here is even like, what is that higher octave? What is that higher expression of this archetypal energy that is specifically being called in for this new paradigm that we're building together? So as we're like, hey, let's create a new world together, how can we utilize the energy of Aries in a particular archetypal fashion that's going to really, really, really help us to get where we want to go as a whole, as a race, as a species on planet Earth. So it's very, very exciting, and we're so happy that you joined us here today.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful thing because we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like literally, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The wheel already exists, and those energies are there for us to draw from. So how do we draw from them and bring them to a new expression, like we were saying? And we're going to be talking about that exactly in this episode today. So Aries, let's talk about Aries.
Okay, so Aries is fantastic. Aries is the ram, and it is the kickoff. It's the kickoff of the zodiacal wheel. So it is the first sign, and it corresponds to the spring equinox. So this is the time when the light and dark balance on the wheel of the year is equal, but we're moving more into the light. So it has a lot of like fire energy, right? Aries is a fire sign. It's the very first of the three fire signs in the zodiac.
I love this energy, and definitely at this time of year is when I feel like ready to start things, to get things moving, to get things going. My rising sign is Aries, so I really relate to this energy, the fire that's within me of starting things. So I really love the excitement and the glamour and the energy of new beginnings, of things starting. And that is a really important energy that we can draw from this archetype. Is like it's the initiator.
Yeah. That and the trailblazer, which I would say is an archetype for me that is really, really big. And so, in order to blaze the path before you that hasn't existed before, you have to have a lot of that, like, I'm going to make it happen. That sheer force of will. That is one of the key principles in the energy of Aries, is that will. The motto is I am or I will, right? I'm taking that literal, that place of willpower within myself and making something happen outside of myself in the world.
And it can be, powerful and explosive. It's like jet fuel.
Exactly. So I know and love many Aries many people who have Aries as a sun sign or as a moon sign, it's an energy that is really fun to collaborate with, and really fun to there's Aries people have a lot of stamina. There's a lot of like kind of never-ending capacity for creative endeavors, right? For movement, for shift, for going, for making things happen, and not getting deterred, right? Like not getting discouraged, not getting yeah, like dampened. It's hard to dampen the will and the spirit of an Aries. They're just
There's a lot of courage.
yeah.
It's a very courageous energy, and then it does have a connection to Mars. So there is this like feeling of power and force and energy.
Yeah. And with that, the warrior archetype, right? The archetype of the hero, the heroine, the warrior, all of those are energies that are very, very close to Aries. Um, and of course, Aries in so as planetarily, like you said, is Mars is the planet associated with Aries, the sign. And then we also have in Greek mythology, the god Aries is the counterpart of the god Mars. So we kind of have a full circle of where the interconnectedness of these archetypes comes together.
Well, I would love to hear a little bit about the god Aries, since you're a Greek background. We can get a little taste of mythology.
Yes. Okay. Well,
Just a
so
little bit of about
a little
Aries.
bit. So Aries is very much known to be a martial god, right? So a god of war, very much a god of battle, a god of strength, a god of endurance. So whereas, we have Athena as another sort of war goddess in the Greek pantheon, she's more about strategy and like, okay, we're gonna win this thing strategically. Aries is about full on just, prowess, right? So the capacity to rise to the occasion, to do what's called for, to have the weapons needed and the force of strength that's needed, and to be able to lead in battle. So that is very much the Aries energy, that it's like when you need something done, when you need something you need to claim victory over something, right? Then Aries energy is the one to like call in and say, come hither, god of war, let us claim victory on the battle together.
Right, right. Definitely that you have force. You have a force to be reckoned with. What else do we want to say, or do we want to
So
go into some of the challenges?
yeah, exactly. Let's look at where the Aries energy can become challenging, right? So either in its shadow expression, or where it can potentially do damage, or just show up as something difficult for us in our lives. So what you got there, Vanessa? Since you actually have Aries as
Yeah.
one of your main energies in your chart.
Yes. I mean, for myself, and then also like being reflected to me and other people that in my life that I've worked with at different points, like there is definitely this thing with Aries that I call like the bull in the china shop.
Hmm.
Because when you don't think about your actions and you have all this force and you're just like going forward without really measuring, strategizing, or having like, thought into the consequences, or if that action is not coming from the right place, it's really messy.
Hmm.
It can be destructive. So, like it's really important here to see like how can we rise above this shadow, because it's like there can be a shadow of that Martian energy, the martial energy of like, belligerence, or just kind of like, you know, like being argumentative, or, like there can be this kind of like butting of heads kind of energy, or a bull in a china shop energy, which is, very problematic.
Yes. And the image that came to mind as you were talking to is like it's sort of like one of those wind up, like tools, or just toys, or where it's like there's this huge force of energy that Aries has, and as soon as you sort of like let it go, on its path, right? It's just going to boom, it's just going to blaze, right? And so there's that place of like, if it's not headed in the right direction, or it doesn't quite have the right goal, all of that energy kind of gets blazed and blasted, perhaps maybe not quite to the right end.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and then you sometimes like you need to clean up a mess, or then
Right.
you need to course correct because you've gone too far in the wrong direction, or
Yeah.
like I think that's like really the challenge with Aries, because there is so much power. And when you have power and it's not contained or it's not directed, and it's, or if you have power and it's in the wrong hands, like those are situations where there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of damage that is done. So it's really important, I think, that what are the, I mean, that's the one that I've seen the most
Yeah.
personally.
Well, and I think that's exactly where, leading right into our new paradigm archetypal anchor for Aries, which is aligned action. So this is the frequency that we really, really, really want to hold with this energy. And it's kind of almost exactly as I was just describing, right? That trailblazing, or wherever that energy is put towards the goal at hand, right? That it's aligned, that we're not all of that force and all of that fire and putting it towards something that will either cause a mess, or be a little bit misdirected, or just be not efficient or effective in what it's hoping to achieve, right? So really, really refining the alignment of where that force goes into action.
Right. Like the way I see it with this concept of aligned action, like this principle that we want to uphold and embody. So as we're moving forward with our force and our power, we want to know and be really clear about, where is this coming from? Like, where are we coming from? Like, why are we doing what we're doing,
Right.
first of all? And then where are we going? Like, what kind of result do we want? What kind of impact do we want to make? And all of those things need to be taken into account. So, for example, our background in modern mystery school, Hermetics, Kabbalah, the formula for creation is really about starting with an idea and a thought and a plan, then taking action. And so what happens, I've seen sometimes, and even in myself at different points, like before I really understood this process, I would take action, or I would think about things for a long time. I'd have lots of ideas, but I wouldn't make plans. So then I would just take action. And then I would realize that I had missed whole, wasn't aligned. And then, I get myself into a mess. So when we can actually like be clear on, what do we want to create? And then what are all the aspects of that? And then how are we going to get there? And then take action.
Right. And what I love about how you just described that is that the action is not one action, right? So in the world of Aries, it's like it's sometimes we want to just like boom, just make it happen, right? But really, action is not done in a vacuum. It's, everything is interrelated, right? So it's going to be like action and then potential course correction, or action and feedback, and then action and then more action, and then action and feedback and action and understanding and checking and course correcting, and then more action. And I think sometimes that's a little bit maybe tedious for the Aries energy that just wants to like boom, make it happen. And that's where we're going to be working with. So in our next episode, we're going to be talking more about the partnerships between the signs, right? So the partnership for Aries, you can see it here on the wheel, maybe behind me. So there's Aries, and then the counterpart sign there is Libra. And so with the sign of Libra, there's a capacity to balance out the intensity of that energy to really help direct and have that aligned action. So the two of them work together. And then the energy of Aries, as we're going to see when we talk more about Libra, is going to help balance out that energy to make sure that new paradigm higher octave hits its mark as well. And so it's a really cool kind of system of checks and balances that we have there in the wheel. And we're going to continue to dive into each one of them as we go.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to, having this energy of motion and action, explosiveness and new beginnings, but seeing more of that, like being aligned in the world, like being for the greatest good, the highest good,
Yes.
So that's like another aspect of where we need to go in the new paradigm, like the actions of people that are making the greatest impact in the world. Like where are they, what's their motivation? Is
Right.
it for profit, or is it for, is it for something that's going to affect everyone? Yes, like we're not saying profit is a bad thing, but if you're not fully aligned to what's really important for our progress in like of humanity, then like those things need to like get recalibrated.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is what the new paradigm energy is calling for. So this isn't like some neat philosophical idea that Vanessa and I have come up with, although it is neat and cool and philosophical. But it's more so that we're looking in response and reflection to what is happening in the world right now. What is happening since this new paradigm energy has started to come in over the last couple of years, and what is it calling us to? What is it saying is the way forward? So we're looking more at that reflection and saying, okay, now what do we see within the aspects of these 12 zodiacal signs and all that they represent, and that how can we use that energy to really support us in being in true alignment with these new paradigm frequencies and doing what is called for there. And so I love that, we started all out with this aligned action in the sign of Aries, and staying in that alignment of what the new paradigm is calling for, and staying in action, because it's really important that we don't um fall off the track either, right? That we don't fall into apathy, or fall into um freeze, or fall into overwhelm, which are all things that can happen. And so, really harnessing this force and fire of Aries, but doing it in a way that is truly aligned and brings about the effectiveness and the efficiency that is called for with this new paradigm frequency.
So good. I just want to add one more thing to this Aries pot of magic that we're stirring here, and that is passion.
Yes.
Aries is, you said we need to worry, not worry. We need to, not fall into apathy. We need to make sure that we keep going forward, that we're taking the right steps to find joy and fulfillment in our life. But if we don't have passion, if we don't have that fire of, something that Aries can give us, that energy can bring us passion. So it's really important that we can even draw on that too, to move forward in our lives and being aligned with what brings us joy and what we're passionate about.
Well, I love that, because it's true that when, passion is the expression of that fire. And so it brings us to a higher frequency within ourselves. And so if we try to take action where there is no passion, we're not going to hit it. We're not going to hit that place that we need to for that higher octave. So I love that you brought that in. Vanessa, there's so much we can just keep talking about, and we will. So this was just episode 1 of our new podcast series, and we're going to do lots and lots and lots more. So stay tuned. We're going to do the next episode where we'll focus on that counterpart between Aries and Libra, and looking at the how those two support one another, and coming up right here with this Libra full moon. So we look forward to talking to you.
Awesome. Well, we will see you next time. Thanks for listening.